Hello and welcome to another episode of Alex's Afternoon Art Show. We're back again. We're doing more of the Marvel vs. Capcom 2 mural. Today we are going to be drawing Jill Valentine from the Resident Evil series. And yeah, this one shouldn't be too difficult, I don't think. I've been wrong before. More than once. Who knows? Now, so you might notice that I've been doing a lot of these base sketches since the last time that I did one of these videos. There's many more base sketches. Now, I've nearly got the whole base roster of the game done. There's I think 3 more characters left and then I've got the whole base roster done. And then I've got all the unlockable characters to add in, and that'll take a while as well, because there's at least like double the amount of these characters in that. But yeah, as you can see, I've made this a little bigger. I've made this page just a little longer. And I'll probably need to make it longer again, because as you can see, I'm already filling it out. But yeah, so I'm just gonna do one of these, remove all that, because it's just gonna get real distracting if I don't. And there you go, now it's just Jill. We don't need all the rest of them on. We can probably turn on Ryu every now and then just for a little bit of scale. But, yeah. So, we've got Jill. I think I made her eyes a little too big. I can always change that. But yeah, so, yeah, the idea here today is that we're probably... yeah, I mean, this is fairly simple enough. I don't think this is going to take too long. This design is fairly simple. It's a very iconic design. I wonder why. But yeah, so there's certain bits of this which I don't think. Like, there's little logos here and here. I'm not going to be drawing those. I don't think. I think that's too much effort to be drawing the Stars logo, because I don't really. I don't want to have to do that. It's a pain. So I'll probably just leave it without that. But yeah, like, I mean, yeah. So this was another one of those ones where it was a blended reference. It's upper body I used reference, then everything from about here, I think. Yeah, from about here. I don't remember because I drew this a while ago now. This base sketch. From there, I just kind of figured the rest of it out myself. But yeah, I'm gonna get into this now. You know, it's funny to me to think of how iconic a character that Jill Valentine is, and how she's had not one but 2 incredibly iconic designs, being this one and then the Resident Evil 3 one. And it's also weird to me to think that they chose to use this design, even though the Resident Evil 3 design would have been very recent at the time that Marvel vs. Capcom 2 came out. I don't know, I guess maybe they thought this one was cooler. But yeah. And it's funny to think that because of just how criminally underused a character Jill Valentine is in the Resident Evil series itself. She's in remarkably few of them. She's only in, well, she's in 3 games and only 2 of them is she a main character. And for a long time, a lot of people probably would have considered her the main character, not Chris, because Chris is boring. But yeah, here we are. I don't know, maybe based on what they did with the Resident Evil 3 remake, we might actually see Jill show up again and other stuff. I wouldn't say it's excessively likely, because of the way that Capcom uses these characters is often kind of weird. Despite how much people like them. It seems like the only character that the fans like and Capcom like to use is Leon, which is odd. That's the only character like that, given how there's so many characters in the Resident Evil franchise, but yet so few of them get any kind of good use outside of like spin-offs and stuff like that, just in main series games. Because obviously, I mean, Jill is playable in a hell of a lot more games if you count the spin-offs and stuff like that, but in this instance I'm not counting those. But yeah, it's just kind of funny the way that they handle these characters. Because yeah, as I said, it does come across that Capcom themselves don't seem to like a lot of these characters very much. I mean, they've said as much in relation to certain characters. Like, that's why you'll never see Rebecca Chambers in another Resident Evil game. Because they've expressly said they just don't like that character, which is real strange. Yeah, it is just kind of odd the way that these things work with these characters though. Anyways, that was my brief Resident Evil aside. I recognise that this has probably been a very silent video at the moment, but yeah, it's I'm a little under the weather at the moment, but yeah, yeah. This is the thing. It's funny with these designs. Like, this is a very iconic design, as I was talking about before, but. Yeah, like I even kind of briefly touched on it. It's weird that they didn't use the Resident Evil 3 design, because that would have been far more current at the time. Because Resident Evil 3 would have only been out for like, I think like a year or two whenever this game came out. It would have been very, very new. So it's kind of odd that they decided to go with the Resident Evil 1 design over Resident Evil 3. But yeah. I did some mathematics on how long I think this series will actually take, and so there's 56 characters, but I'm only going to be doing 55 because I'm not doing a separate Wolverine. But yeah, that's 55 characters, and if one of these is coming out per week, that's going to be 55 weeks, which is nearly a whole bloody year. Of these, and I can get multiple of them done in a week, in theory. But yeah, this is gonna run for a long time, I would say. And yeah, you can expect to be seeing these for a while, unless I decide to take a little break from uploading these or whatever and decide to upload something else of the art videos for a while. But yeah, as I say, you can expect to see quite a few of these. Yeah. I wasn't initially thinking about that whenever I started this series. I was just thinking to myself, oh, this is a fun idea. And then I thought, and then only after I'd started did I think about the logistics of it. So that's a lesson to you kids. So yeah, I suppose, yeah. Hopefully all of these are good. Hopefully all of these drawings are good, because you're going to be seeing them for a while. It's going to be another 20-something weeks before you even see a new, or before you even see a character who isn't in the base roster. So I mean, yeah. Jeez. Hopefully that didn't deter anyone. Hopefully that didn't make anyone think, oh god, how am I going to sit through all this crap? Yeah, I mean, we're making pretty decent time at the moment. We're only 40 minutes in. We've nearly finished the kind of the details. Yeah, there's gonna be, because these are kind of like baggier trousers, I'm gonna have to do a little bit more work here because the shirt is tight, or it's at least not very wrinkly. But the trousers are going to be because they're very kind of loose. Based on this version of the design anyways, they are. Yeah, no, it is just kind of funny, I suppose, just how there's going to be a lot of these. It's going to be an awful lot of these. Yeah. Yeah. Oh yeah, something which I've started doing now, which you've probably noticed by this point in these videos, is that I've started putting like a little lower third just over there, roughly, where I put in the titles of whatever song is playing. And it's primarily because I've been using more remixes lately, and I want to actually credit the people who make them. Because I mean, I always put the links in the description, but I mean, not everyone's going to see that, so this is the thing. It's best to kind of do that because more people are going to see that, and then if they don't have to necessarily search into the description to find it, or if they see the name of the song and it's like, oh, they see the remix by whomever, they might say, oh, I'll look that up later, rather than going straight into the description now. So that's the thing. It's more practical, maybe, I suppose. I don't know. It's certainly a lot of effort, surprisingly. You wouldn't believe how hard it is to find a usable PNG of a music note. I certainly didn't believe how hard it was. Ridiculous. You know, I used to struggle an awful lot when it came to drawing these types of boots. And you know, it's not easy to draw these types of boots because there's a lot of details in them. These kind of like combat boots, because of the kind of the grip parts at the bottom of the boots, which kind of add a little bit of extra time. Then there's also this kind of design work of where there's the lacing, all that stuff. And these ones are slightly different because they have a cap on them, which is quite far back from the reference I'm looking at, which is kind of strange. And then there's the kind of design work of the edge of the boot like that. And yeah, like these type of boot can be very difficult to draw purely just because of how much bloody design work is in them. Obviously, that's in reality that design work is practical. It's there for a reason. It has a purpose. It's there to keep the boot together, and also because it's a very hard boot. So whenever you have this kind of cross-laced boot like this, it's a very hard boot, so if you bloody kick someone with one of these, it'll hurt like hell. And yeah, it's like the practicality of the design of them is obviously to be multi-terrain, to be rock solid, and so they don't just break on you. Because yeah, they're a combat boot. They're designed for very harsh terrains, and obviously to be walking through stuff that you wouldn't normally be walking through. But yeah, that's kind of our details for Jill. I think her eyes are maybe still a bit too big, but I think that's fine. Her eyes are quite big in a lot of the reference. That's reference specifically of Bengus's art, who has an art style which is obviously very kind of, well, very Japanese, very kind of anime inspired. But it's kind of, yeah, the best way to describe it, I suppose, is like a cross between anime and Jim Lee. Because of that kind of heavy hatching and everything, which is very, very common. amongst Jim Lee and his kind of peers at the time. And also, yeah, like that kind of cross hatching, or that hatching, kind of heavy hatching, is something that you still see a lot of artists do. Namely, Jim Lee still does it. And yeah, it's kind of, it's one of those things which I used to do hatching, but it just takes way too long. It's just real time consuming, insanely time consuming. But yeah, so what I'm gonna do here is, as is custom, I'm gonna prepare the next bit here, and then I'm gonna take a quick break. I think we're about halfway point of the video now, because we're 52 minutes into my recording. So yeah, I will be back momentarily. Okay, I'm back, and now we're going to do the dots, which is realistically the kind of the quick part. Of these ones, yeah, I'd say this is one of the quicker parts. Mainly because, yeah, I just kind of go ham. I don't go too specific or anything, because I can't. Because yeah, these are too small, these drawings, to really get too crazy with them, and also I want to conserve time. But this is the kind of the point where realistically I don't really need to talk very much more. During the dots I don't really talk much, I don't think. Yeah. Anyways, this is generally kind of a shorter one, I guess, in terms of talking. In recording, it's probably gonna end up being the exact same length, more or less. But yeah, I suppose I've kind of covered a lot of the things I wanted to cover, mostly about the design. I don't know what the start of these gloves is. It's kind of weird looking. But yeah, a lot of the designs from Resident Evil 1 are very strange, in that the characters have like these weird things to them. A lot of them have this kind of weird puffer jacket design, the kind of the big life preserver vest that like all the male characters have. And then Jill has the shoulder pads and the beret, which is, yeah, it's very iconic, but it's very strange. And that's the thing, a lot of those designs don't make any sense, but they are very iconic. And that's the thing with a lot of just Resident Evil designs in general, they're very iconic, but not really, they don't really make much sense. Particularly the Resident Evil 1 design. Some of the Resident Evil 3 designs are kind of the same way. And Resident Evil 2 is kind of a little bit more sensible, I suppose, in its designs. But they still don't make a lot of sense in a lot of cases. But yeah, I'll get on with this. Okay, so that is our dots done, and something which I suppose I should mention with the dots is this is a thing I always do, but it's just kind of something I suppose maybe to touch on, is that a lot of the time with the dots I go darker on spots that should be darker. So for example, that obviously sounds like a no-brainer whenever I say it like that, but on colours that are going to be dark, like the gloves and the boots, I go a little heavier, a little darker than say I would on the shirt or on skin, which is supposed to be a little fairer. But even on skin, which is usually supposed to be dark, I generally don't go that hard on the dots, just so that there's a distinguishing factor there between the skin and then the clothing. Because regardless, skin is still the same material. But yeah, that's the kind of idea there. I mean, if I pop on Ryu for a second here, you can see that a lot of the dots here are quite kind of clear, and that's mostly because he is primarily just skin and white, so naturally it's gonna be a lot lighter. But yeah, so there was another thing I wanted to say about the dots, but I don't remember what it was. And yeah, I think primarily with the dots I just kind of do whatever with them, and it just kind of, it's there to serve a very simple purpose. But yeah, so now we got colors. We've got colors to do, so yeah. As I said before, we've kind of already done the bulk of the talking for this video, bulk of the conversation. And also I am a little sick today, so don't want to throw out my voice or anything, tire myself out too much by yammering away. Anyways. Something which I actually want to talk about here briefly, to interject into what I thought would be the end. But yeah, to just briefly talk about this. Something which I wanted to do, which I wanted to talk about, was that I talked about this a little bit in the Ryu one, but yeah. So something that I'm doing is I'm making the colors a lot more vibrant, a lot more bright, a lot more colorful, and it's primarily because whenever later on, whenever we put the gradient map on, we want the colors to be as kind of vivid as possible, so that well, not as vivid as possible. We want them to be as kind of good, as juicy as possible, so that the gradient map can kind of make them pop a little bit more, so that the gradient map can kind of do a little bit more with what it's given. Because if we use very dull, kind of drab colors, they're not going to come out all that well in the gradient map. Depends on what gradient map we're using, but since I know what gradient map I'm going to be using, and that's going to be the more kind of autumnal one, that won't really come out well if they're too dull. If the colors are too kind of drab, they won't come out all that well. So we're going to want to make them quite colorful, quite bright, just so that whenever it comes out nice and colorful. Because yeah, otherwise it'll be a bit kind of drab and dull, which we definitely don't want. But yeah, that's all I just wanted to say there. Okay, I think that's our colors done. I think they're appropriately bright. But yeah, now next we've got to do our shading. And then after that, our light line, then we're done, more or less. Well, yeah, we are done actually after the light line, because we don't have to do any of the other kind of effects stuff that I would normally do. Because yeah, this is only part 3 of a basically 55-part series. It's gonna take a while. Gonna be at this. Well, realistically, I'm not gonna be at this for as long as the series is gonna run. Because, it's not gonna take that long for me to make all of these. Because it only takes me 2 hours realistically per drawing. I'm an hour and a half in, I'm nearly done this one. The last 2 took me 2 hours and 10 minutes each. And so if it kind of runs like this, I'll be able to get these done. Like, I get a good couple of weeks of being able to do these, and then I can do most of them pretty much. So this is the thing, it's like it's not going to take that long for me to get them done. I just need to double check that I'm doing the shading on the right side, I'm used to doing the shading on the other side, I think. I really don't know actually now that I think about it, which side I normally do the shading on anymore. Because I change it pretty frequently. Really just depends on the day, whenever I decide, or wherever I decide to do the shading. Okay, so that's our dots. My brain gets stuck in things sometimes. But yeah, that's our shading done. Now we've just got the light line and then we're finished. Just got the light line and then we're done. And that'll only take a few minutes. Because that's on this side, yeah, it's on the side where the shading is. Let me turn on this just so I can see, yeah. Both of them as well. Save myself some time. Right, so let's do this very quickly. Oh, there's another completed character. There's Jill. We're finished Jill. So I'll throw on Ryu and I'll throw on Wolverine and we'll see how we're looking for the moment out of completed characters. So we got 3 completed characters now of the like nearly 20 I think that I've already drawn. But yeah, still a lot to go, evidently. But yeah. We're making progress anyways, we're making progress. But yeah. Yeah, so that's us for the video. We're done now. I'm pretty happy with how that came out. I think the colours are suitably vibrant. They fit with all the colours that I've done so far anyways. A lot of the colours I've done so far have been very bright. But yeah. I think we've covered everything I wanted to cover. Because this is one of these types of videos, there aren't really any particular topics that I'm going through. It's really just kind of talking about what I'm doing. There's no particular topics planned or anything like that. Like the other ones I usually do have like a vague kind of 1 line or 2 things which I want to kind of talk about. But these ones, no, it's just kind of the same thing that I did with the Marvel Nemesis ones, if it's just the drawing. And whatever I think about talking about, that's what I talk about. But yeah, if you like the video, do what you normally do. There's no obligations here. But yeah, subscribe if you want. I always forget my outro. Genuinely, I can't. I've done over 20 of these now, and I can never remember the outro. It's ridiculous. It's not even that complicated. Yeah, I mumble something about sharing sometimes, I guess, but I really can't. I don't know if you can do that anymore on YouTube. So I guess I'll just say bye-bye.